Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Data Standard Audio Experience. And today on our show, we have Scott Taylor, the data whisperer and principal consultant at Meta Consulting. And today we're going to be speaking more about data storytelling. So welcome to the show, Scott. It's such a pleasure to have you on the show today. I know we connected on LinkedIn, and I'm very excited to just learn more about your experiences and everything that you've been doing.
Sure, Catherine, thanks for having me.
Yeah, definitely. Could you introduce yourself to the audience and just tell us more about your background?
Sure. So Scott Taylor, data whisperer. I help calm data down. I'm from the data management space, 30 years in it, and that's what we do in data management. We calm data down so it can bring more value to the rest of the organization. It's unruly and unstructured and siloed and big and corrupt and all those other crazy things. So I've been working in data or working with people who work with data for about 30 years. Got my start at Nielsen, large iconic data brand. They've got all kinds of different sorts of data. They track all kinds of things. Spent some time at Dun & Bradstreet and also consulted for a number of data brands, helping them all tell a story about why managing data is of strategic importance to the enterprise.
Yeah, sounds great. And so there's a lot of different moving parts for data storytelling, but how does it specifically relate to data management?
I feel like, first of all, data storytelling is probably the hottest non-technical thing going on in the data space today. But I was watching it, and it seemed to be focused mostly on data science, analytics, business intelligence, telling stories with data, which is super important. Visualization, dashboards, that sort of thing. And coming from the data management side, I went, okay, so where's the data management story about why managing data is of strategic importance to an enterprise, of why we need to do data governance, data stewardship, master data, reference data, metadata, MDM, RDM, all these foundational activities that really create the common truth for an organization before they start to derive meaning out of analytics. So I feel like there's two data stories out there, one with data, which is business intelligence, and one about the data, which is data management. And I see those together. You don't have to choose either one. Every enterprise should have both. But I'm all about determining the truth first in data before you derive meaning, hence the meaning of my truth hat here. It's all about that foundational stuff. Do we have the hierarchies right? Do we have categorization? Do we have geographies? Do we have common definitions? All these things feed into whatever's being done in analytics and can really skew the results if you don't have that truth first before you go to meaning.
Yeah, definitely. Great insight there. And could you tell us about a specific time you were able to derive a story from the data that you were using?
I don't actually use data. So I'm kind of in an interesting position. So I talk about how people talk about data. So I'm not a practitioner. I don't do the work I talk about, but we all have a role to play. And I think I play mine well, which is the storytelling part, creating a narrative. So I work with organizations that have my whole career helping them pitch the value of what they're doing in data management to get funding, to get stakeholder support, to get C-level attention, to get investment, and have helped all different kinds of organizations. And I do it, I've kind of codified it in my book here, Data Storytelling for Data Management, Telling Your Data Story. You'll notice it's 99% buzzword free. That's my guarantee. So try and really put it in a straightforward, business accessible way, because data management, let's face it, I'll say it if nobody else would, can be kind of boring, kind of back office, clerical, nothing too sexy about it. Nobody's jumping up and down saying, here's the latest in data management, but they're talking about AI and ML and analytics-based stuff. But it always comes back to this, you got to build a foundation before you go further with the rest of the house, whatever kind of analogy you want to use. So I help people figure that out, right? Where are the data problems? How do you articulate this to the business? How do you speak the language of the business? How do you take what you're doing in data management, data quality, which is particularly an emotional topic, and show how it really supports where your business wants to go, and tell it in the language of your own business instead of the technical talk? Or the way I position it is, you've got to understand to be able to articulate the why before you get too deep into the how. There's a balance. You need both. You got to know how you're going to get it done. But business leaders, if they don't understand the why, they don't care about the how.
Yeah, definitely. And I know we've been talking a lot about kind of the background of data storytelling, but in terms of the teams and how teams are working together, who's talking to who to kind of get this data storytelling together?
I think that the data management team, that leadership, should be able to articulate this to all the business stakeholders. Every part of the organization touches data. That's not new anymore. That's a given fact at any enterprise. But when sales has got one definition of customer and marketing calls it a target and operations calls it a ship to, and finance wants to know the billing and the executive level just wants to see everything aggregated up, there can be a lot of confusion really quickly. Data governance should step in and say, we've got to get to this common set of definitions. We've got to set these standards for our organization before we get too far afield. And everybody, the way I say, everybody likes to see things one way, their way. So you've got to try and herd all these people together and get all those differing opinions, but you must set a standard in an organization. So the data management side should be telling a story to its own group, so its own group knows it, can articulate it, can share that same story. I call that harmonizing to a common voice. You all talk about it the same way or relatively the same way, and then share it across the organization to make sure everybody who's touching data knows the importance of keeping data well managed, of data stewardship, of the real critical nature of having internal and external standards and adhering to those before you go off and do all the, fun, cool, sexy stuff.
Yeah, definitely. And there's a lot of different moving parts that come with data storytelling. And have you ever faced any specific challenges that you'd like to talk about?
Yeah, all the time. Like, people don't understand what the folks I'm talking, helping speak are talking about. They use buzzwords. They talk about data quality, which, as I mentioned, is important, but it's really emotional, really subjective term. You go up to the CEO and say, "We need better data quality," and they're like, "What? Didn't you do it? Why do I care?" I've had CEOs stop me in a conversation and say, "Why do I care about this? Why are you telling me this?" They don't say, "How are you going to do it?" They don't say, "What's it going to cost yet?" But they will often ask, "Why are you even talking about this?" So a common challenge is relating those relatively established internal, technical, clerical activities to the purpose of the company. So that's the part I get really excited about. How to tie all that stuff to the reason a company exists and helping people peel back a lot of what might be clouding their vision and let them see, this is why your company exists. This is the essence of your company, is based on the idea that you're trying to deliver value to your relationships through your brands at scale. Every company I ever dealt with, you can roll up what they do to that phrase. If you aim at that, then you're going to break through. Then you're going to get people excited. And all I do is, try and get people excited about data management. I don't do a lot of whispering, in case you didn't notice already. So whispering we save for the data. I gotta, yell and sell and tell about why people should be doing more of this work.
Yeah, definitely. And that's something that's really important, especially in this more technical field, is being able to communicate everything to everyone and just making sure that we're all on the same page. So you're doing a great job, it sounds like, with everything that
Thank
you're
you.
doing.
I mean, I learned, you were talking about hurdles. Wasn't born with this. I can tell a story. My whole family's storytellers. When I started in the data business, I was explaining things to people and they didn't know what I was talking about. And I was talking to IT people and they understood it, but they would tell me the business doesn't understand. They don't know. They're not asking for this. And it took me a while to figure out, well, they don't even know what to ask for. If you have a very technical sounding thing and you're non-technical and you ask for something the wrong way, those people will do exactly what you said and you're off the rails before you know it. So it was more around explaining that value and tying it to what they're doing every day and where they're trying to bring the business. But I had plenty of people just go, what? Talk to business people. I tell the story in the book where I went to this guy. He was the head of sales of a large bakery organization. It's a national company. I was working in Nielsen. And he just says, Scott, I didn't understand anything you said. All I got to do is sell more bread. That's what I'm trying to do. How's this help me sell more bread? And it did. So, but I couldn't explain it. It's like a long drive back to the airport there. It's like, I got to get better at this. And that's part of the impetus to just kind of get better at it.
Yeah, and I think it's so important that communication is a skill that's, I think, often overlooked. People don't think about that enough, but it's great that you've been able to kind of channel that in and kind of practice it too, because it's not always a skill that we're always born with. It's something that we always have to kind of keep practicing and improving in the future, definitely.
Especially in the data and analytics space where the primary focus is on the hard skills. Can we do coding? Do you know statistics? Are you good at data science? Can you understand stewardship? These are really difficult and intricate and important talents and skills to have, but they are really the hard skills versus the soft skills of communication, developing a narrative. So like I said, I don't do the how. I don't touch anything during those kind of classic levels of programming and database design, conceptual, logical, physical. I'm great at conceptual. I can kind of talk my way technically through logical, but I don't get physical. I don't touch anything. We all have a part to play. I think I play mine well, but I know my space. I know my part. I don't try and jump out of that too much because I get in trouble.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
a lot of folks who can do it like to work with me because I help bring a voice to what they're trying to do, which is important. And that soft skill that you just mentioned.
Yeah, definitely. And throughout this whole process of you kind of working with different companies and helping them kind of build this data story and improving their businesses, do you have a favorite aspect of this process or a specific favorite part that you like to do?
That's a great question because I do. Yes. So we go through every time you do this, part of what you have to do is show people the data problem. And if you can do it in a really specific, at times almost ridiculously anecdotal way, it makes an incredible impact. And an example of that is showing somebody the 57 ways they spell IBM or Coca-Cola or the New York Times. I have a slide I've been using for over 20 years that has 275 different configurations of how a company spells 7-Eleven banner name. Sometimes it's hyphenated, sometimes it's spelled out, sometimes the store number's in there, sometimes there's a pound. So all this mess. And people can't explain that when you show them that. They just go, okay, there's a problem. I affectionately used to call it showing somebody their baby's ugly. It's a really difficult step to take, but it can shock people into this. I had a friend of mine who used to work in the data business. He called it the shame report. Show them this. You hear about garbage in, garbage out? This is the garbage. And I was consulting for an extremely large organization, trying to get the notion of, in their case, they worked on brands. So the idea of brand, the concept of brand was really important to this organization. Every piece of work they did had to do with brand. And they had literally dozens and dozens of different divisions, different companies, different agencies that was built by, it was a big holding company. So I found 30 different examples of the same brand and the unique codes they had for each of them in all these separate databases. And I had it on a slide. And I said, this is your problem. Here's 30 examples. This client wants to know everything you can bring them about this particular brand, and you don't have the data organized in a way or structured that you can do that in any kind of scale quickly. It's all manual. And it was a leadership meeting. And so the leaders of many of these divisions were there. And I had this big slide up on the wall, and some of them got up and they're just kind of looking, oh, you call it this and I call it that. And it was just, I said, I could have found 50, but I thought 30 would have made the point. And that kind of thing can just suddenly open people's eyes to allow them to see something that was, as far as I'm concerned, hidden in plain sight. Once you recognize it, you begin to see it everywhere. And that began a journey of, we got to get this fixed, and we got to get it fixed at that level. This isn't about software. This is about our data's got to connect. So lots of fun. I'm glad you brought it up. I had one, if you don't mind, I had another guy. We showed this person, we had a whole bunch of their hierarchy. So they had a lot of hierarchy problems, and they called on retailers. So we showed them, we got a lot of their examples, and we had literally a dozen examples of their hierarchies, but we aligned it in a way where the really easy ones were first, and then it got more and more complicated. It's like, all right, this one, you only have this problem, this one, and it was increasing level of horror. And we got about 6 in, and the COO put his head in his hands. He's like, enough, okay, we get it, okay. So that was a highlight when you just kind of break through that way, showing somebody their own data to say, here's your problem.
Yeah, definitely. And thank you so much for sharing all of these great stories that you had from all of your experiences. It's such a pleasure to have you on the show today. We at the Data Standard, we're trying to build a community of data thought leaders and data enthusiasts where everybody has a place where they can all network and connect to each other. So what is something that we can do for you as a community?
Oh, that's a wonderful offer. Watch my stuff. I'm on YouTube. I've got a channel, The Data Whisperer, Scott Taylor Data Whisperer. I've got a pretty wide range of very serious videos about interoperability in digital transformation, and then some rather wacky videos like puppet shows and cartoons with got a character called the CDO, the Chief Dog Officer, and the ITB who speaks in buzzwords. And so there's some really fun stuff there. Check out my book if you like, Telling Your Data Story, Data Storytelling for Data Management. Follow me on LinkedIn, and hopefully I can give back as well. So love for folks to do that. Any or all of the above would be wonderful.
Yeah, definitely. Scott has a lot of great content that he puts out online to help others. I remember seeing the first content that I saw from you was the Chief Dog Officer, and I thought that was so cute and funny to kind of put into some humor on LinkedIn. Definitely.
You got to try. Yeah, there's more of those to come. So I've got a whole episode. My most creative thing I did last year was write the book, and the most creative thing I have planned for this year, I hope, is doing a multi-part episode of those puppet characters and have them go on their classic data journey and make every possible mistake I've seen people make, but in kind of a humorous way that helps people learn from it. But a lot of people really, the Chief Dog Officer and the ITB resonated with more people than I thought it was going to. So it's definitely a hit. There's more to come on that.
Yeah, definitely. Very excited and looking forward to seeing more of your content also. Definitely. Yeah. And to our audience, for more information on the Data Standard, you can find us at www.datastandard.io, as well as on our LinkedIn and YouTube channel. And this episode is sponsored by Pandio. They're innovating the tech space with their Apache Pulsar messaging system. So you can learn more about their work at pandio.com. Thank you so much, Scott, for joining us. Such a pleasure to have you on the show. We really appreciate your time today. So thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. This was fun.